Hello and welcome to the Django DRF API Query Fundamentals course. My name is Xander. Now this tutorial is part of a whole course playlist available for free on YouTube. For deeper learning, the full course is available for purchase at Udemy. Find all of these resources and links in the video description. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for weekly promotions, discounts, and Udemy course giveaways. When designing a database, it's important to control which fields are required and how they handle empty values. So required fields. A field is required when it must have a value before saving the record. So this is useful for essential data such as username, emails, or maybe order IDs. So once you have created an ERD, what you might also then build next is a data dictionary. So inside of a data dictionary, it provides additional information about the attributes and properties of each of the fields to give the developer or anyone who needs information about the database tables more information about the specifics of each field. So here's just an example. Here we have a data dictionary for the category table. So in addition to the information you find on the ERD, here you also find information about whether the field should be null, any default values, and maybe max length and the behavior on delete if you have any foreign keys. So in this example, you can see that the ID, the primary key, must be unique, which is true of any Django model where we don't supply a primary key. It will automatically create our primary key for us, but you can see that all the other fields should be false. So we don't have any other unique fields, it looks like, in this table, and null values. So it looks like every field except the parent field is required when we insert data into this table. So when we insert data into this table, we need to supply the ID name slug is active level by default, else we cannot insert data into this table. So if we take a look at the category table, we haven't actually specified whether we should allow the field to have null values or not, whether we should allow to create a new record and not specify any data for any fields. Because in actual fact, by default, each field, in the case of these field types, they are set automatically to null equals false. So we have to supply a value for all of these fields by default. Now, because I have a number of different extensions, if I hover over one of these classes, in actual fact, it provides me additional information about the default settings for this class. And we can see by moving down here that null is by default set to false. So we cannot add, when we add a record to this database, we cannot forget to add data for this field. So in actual fact, the only field we need to specify null equals true is the foreign key, which we'll discuss a little bit later in this module, adding foreign keys. But if we take a look at maybe the product table, there is a field called description, and let's make that optional. You can see what we've done here. We've utilized a text field because there's going to be a large amount of text. So we use a text field, and we've set the null equals true, meaning that when we enter a new record in this table, we can omit or not include any data for this field. Now I have also included blank equals true, which means that if we try to insert data, for example, from a form, we can use this information to tell Django, yeah, that should be, that can be blank. So we also include blank equals true there. So you will need to work through your database tables and fields and determine, based upon your business requirements or your general application requirements, whether a field should be set to null or not. But just to recap null means no value at the database level. If a field allows null, it can store an empty value instead of the actual data. So, as it says here, used when a field might not always be needed. We showed you an example of description. So in our business requirements, the description of the product isn't necessarily required, so we allowed there to be blank or null values for that field. Now we also saw blank. So blank controls, as I alluded to, whether a field is required in forms. So we've set the blank equals true in the description field. So that means it can be left empty when filling out forms. So for example, when we start using the Django admin form, that will also apply. Understanding required, null, and blank fields helps keeps databases well structured, ensures correct data entry, and prevents unwanted errors.